We ready? Well, good morning everybody. My name's Simon Crooks. I'm the Project Director for Destination Brisbane Consortium. I'd like to welcome you to the bridge. 4 weeks ago we were here standing on reinforcing, and now we're looking at some major changes in the last 4 weeks. So I thought without ado I would hand over to the Deputy Premier, and he can have a chat with you all.
Fantastic. Thank you, Simon. It's great to be here again at the South Bank landing side of Brisbane's new pedestrian bridge, the Neville Bonner Bridge. And haven't the workers just done so much since we were last here 4 weeks ago? Before I talk a bit more about the bridge, I'm happy to provide a COVID update in terms of cases overnight. There's 5 new cases in Queensland, bringing our total to 2,125. All 5 have travelled through Pakistan and were detected in hotel quarantine. They're staying together as a family unit. We did 6,980 tests. Our vaccination rates are now 86.17% for first dose and 75.92% for second dose. Back to the bridge. The crowning archway is now in place. These two 60-metre long, 90-tonne arches sit 30 metres above the river and will suspend the walkway that we are on right now. This wonderful bridge will link 2 incredible cultural precincts, South Bank here on one side and the new tourism massive integrated resort on the city side, which you can see rising up from the ground. In fact, the larger of the towers is currently at level 20. The lift well there is at level 20, and that's about half the height that it will eventually be. So you can really see the project coming together, and just imagine in a few years' time being able to walk from South Bank into the new resort in the city, and then you can head further down the street to Albert Street, our new Cross River Rail station. You can start to get a sense of how these projects mesh together, how they're changing the face of the city, and how they're providing a platform that will allow us to deliver a fantastic 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games. Grace is the member for McConnell where this bridge lands, and I'll ask her to say a bit about it.
And as a member for McConnell, I used to be on the South Bank board when we built the Goodwill Bridge to my left, and then soon after the Kurilpa Bridge was built, and these have been very successful pedestrian bridges from the South Bank side, or should I say from the McConnell side, meeting up to the South Bank side, and we're really looking forward to an additional pedestrian bridge linking the wonderful area of South Bank and now my electorate of McConnell, with the Queen's Wharf project being of course the jewel in the crown where this bridge will land. This bridge will provide work next year for up to 2,000 local tradies and workers, and that's great news for our economic recovery plan and great news for jobs here in Brisbane and of course in Queensland. This will be iconic. We are now an Olympic city, and Brisbane is certainly going to provide the infrastructure that we are going to need to showcase our wonderful state and our wonderful city to the rest of the world in 2032. But obviously we want to make sure that everyone is safe, and I never miss the opportunity to say that if you haven't been vaccinated, please, it's safe, it's accessible, and please, if you haven't been vaccinated, go and get vaccinated. The sooner we can reach our 80% mark and of course the 90% plus mark, the better we will be when it comes to our economic recovery and to Queensland opening up to the rest of Australia at this point in time. Great to be here this morning. Can't believe how far the bridge has extended already, and it's a credit to the tradespeople that are working on this site. Thanks for having me.
Any questions on this first? Come on, give me something.
Are you happy with how fast it's coming along?
It's incredible how fast the whole development's coming along. When we were here just a month ago, we were standing on reinforcing steel. It's all now obviously concreted, but these arches are spectacular. When we were here just a month ago, there were 1,000 workers on site. There's now 1,300. That'll peak at 2,000. But when Queen's Wharf is open, there will be 8,000 people employed there. Okay, now on to things.
Is there any concern about the new variant? Is there going to be any changes to our borders at this stage?
Well, as they always do, our health officials are monitoring developments around the country and around the world and continue to provide advice about what is happening there and whether that should affect any settings here. So nothing has changed at this stage, but people should be assured that we will continue to take a cautious, well-prepared approach. Our officials are amongst the best in the world. They will monitor the situation very, very closely and they'll provide advice to us.
The government's defined itself on the measures it's taken to curb violence against women. Given that, why won't the government order an inquiry into the forensic unit?
Questions about the forensic unit, I understand the Health Minister addressed at her press conferences recently. In my experience of them, they do a very good job. Certainly while I was there as the Health Minister, they do a very good job. These, as I understand, these concerns go back to 2013 and a lot has changed since then. But with regards to the specifics of the lab, I'd just ask you to refer those questions to the Minister.
Since 2013, there was an Auditor General's report in 2019 which exposed more serious failings with this unit, in particular access to forensic rape kits. Given that, is the government nervous about what might be exposed if an independent inquiry is ordered, as Shannon parents have asked for?
We obviously received those recommendations. Health management have acted on those. When it comes to the questions of forensic rape kits, that was something that I was very pleased to be able to roll out across our health services as the Health Minister. Up until then, women had to make a complaint to police before they could access those rape kits. They can now access them in our hospitals without necessarily needing to go to police. So that was one reform that we introduced. Obviously, other recommendations there were considered and implemented by the health services.
But the revelations that have come out in the Australian on Friday and today about the ongoing problems with the forensic unit, why won't the government order an independent inquiry if there's still problems ongoing?
Are they the revelations from 2013?
And this was raised by a top forensic expert.
Commenting on issues from 2013, or?
Yeah, and senior police in North Queensland recently, as last month, commented on problems with the forensic unit in Mackay, in Townsville and in Cairns.
Look, I'm happy to look at those other comments. What I've seen relates to concerns about the lab dating back to 2013. Obviously, that's quite some time ago.
Do you think your government spends enough on mental health?
Look, I've seen those reports. It's often hard within the health budget to break out spending into individual items. So while that dollar amount relates to the amount that's dedicated to the mental health service, it doesn't encompass all of the services provided to people suffering from mental illness. We've introduced and greatly expanded our mental health services. We've opened new step-up, step-down units. We're building big new acute mental health units on the Gold Coast and in Cairns. We have new mental health stabilisation units at Caboolture and at Logan and elsewhere. We're investing in mental health co-responders, where we send out mental health professionals with police and ambulance officers to deliver targeted mental health care in the field. They're supported by staff, co-responder staff in the call centres who have access to patient information for those mental health clients who we interact with regularly. So there is a lot of new programs going into mental health supports. They are making a real difference, but we are also seeing an increase in acute demand. Now, some of that, as you saw in the opinion piece from our Mental Health Commissioner today, some of that is driven by a lack of primary and community care, a lack of intervention in the early stages, leading people into crisis care, leading them to be cared for in the emergency department and by our ambulance officers. And that's why so many of those programs are targeted at delivering acute mental care, crisis care, but doing it in a more appropriate setting. And so that's been a clear focus of our investment, but we remain concerned about the inability to access primary care, community care and private sector psychology services.
The Mental Health Commissioner has backed calls for a review into both the states' services in the Commonwealth. Is that something the state government
Well, the Mental Health Commissioner provides us with very regular advice about how to ensure that we are both investing appropriately and that it is going to the services that will make the greatest difference. I know I met with him very regularly to hear that advice. I think it's good that he is highlighting how the spectrum of services affect each other. That's been something that we've been talking a lot about too. And obviously we'll continue to invest more into all of our health services, including our mental health services, as we do every budget. We have a mental health commissioner. It's very difficult to separate out mental health services from other health services. People suffering mental illness very often need complex care from a multidisciplinary team, and so that's why we have our mental health services integrated into our health services. Different models operate in other states, but that is the system that we have here and that's serving us well.
Are you concerned that the investigations into Star Casino down south will jeopardise its ability to run the casino up here?
No, I'm sure Star will do an excellent job of, in fact they are doing an excellent job of delivering this city-changing project. It will be fantastic once it's built.
Do you think Queensland's future should start soon with the variant?
Look, I'm not across the specific arrangements of their start date, but what I can say is that I have great confidence in not only the incoming Chief Health Officer, but the Deputy Chief Health Officers, including Dr. Aiken, who's acting in that role right now. They will do a great job of continuing to provide us with the kind of advice that has kept Queensland safe so far.
Are all the staff in your department double vaccinated?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that question, but we certainly would encourage them to, as we've encouraged everyone to. And come the 17th, they, like anyone else, will need to be double vaccinated if they want to visit a cafe or a pub or go to any of those venues. So I'm sure they are either vaccinated or on their way to being vaccinated.
The government's introducing mandates though for hospitality staff in other areas. Don't you think that people working for the government should be forced to be vaccinated?
Well, look, extending mandates to staff in groups is something that we've said we'll consider and continue to discuss. Right now, we are seeing a big uplift driven by those 17 December freedoms, people wanting to get access to those rewards for getting vaccinated, and that is driving our vaccination rate up. We'll obviously continue to monitor that, continue to take advice about what the most appropriate measures are.
Has there been an update on the mandate for teachers, and if so, is time running out to get everyone vaccinated?
Yeah.
Before school returns next year?
Yes, the update on teachers is time isn't running out. It is under active consideration. We hope to land somewhere fairly soon and make that announcement. But obviously, with the questioning just before of the Deputy Premier, I'm sure there will be a percentage of education staff. Remember, it's not just teachers. We were the first state to move to put staff on the category of 1B, and the response to that has been remarkable. There's tens and tens of thousands of vaccinated staff, and we covered the whole of the early childhood education sector and, of course, school staff as well. So it's still under active consideration, and we hope to make an announcement fairly soon, but there's plenty of time. School breaks up for the summer on the 10th of December. Some non-government schools, and they're very keen to be involved in the decision as well, are breaking up at the end of this week, and we don't come back until January next year, so there's ample time. But once again, I encourage, if you haven't been vaccinated, please get vaccinated. Delta and now obviously the new Omicron variant is going to hunt out the unvaccinated. Protect yourself, your family and your friends, and get vaccinated.
So how many teachers or teacher aides haven't been vaccinated?
Yeah, look, those numbers aren't clear at the moment, Lydia, of the numbers of teacher and teacher aides that haven't, but what we know is the take-up has been remarkable. But in any case, we're probably going to face a small percentage. The vast majority will be vaccinated, but a small percentage of staff in schools, and it's not just teacher and teacher aides, as I said, it's all the volunteers and auxiliary staff and other non-teaching staff that are in our schools and early childhood centres, both across the government and non-government sectors, and we will be looking at that very, very soon.
You said the numbers on that weren't clear. Is that because the government hasn't asked every teacher for vaccinated?
That's right. At this point in time, without a health order, it's a bit difficult to be asking for specifics in relation to their vaccination. We know we were the first to move to have them in the category of 1B, and we're very much encouraging and giving whatever is required to enable access and for them to be able to go and get their vaccination. And I once again encourage, if you haven't been vaccinated, please be vaccinated.
Are you concerned that will put a strain on the teacher workforce, which is already quite under pressure?
It's a bit hard to talk about any impacts on the staffing. As I said, I think the vast majority of staffing in our schools and early childhood centres right across the government and non-government sector will abide by the vaccination, and I encourage everyone to do so.
And Minister, the mandate that's under active consideration, would that extend to universities, do you imagine?
Yeah, look, universities isn't something that is necessarily straight into my portfolio, but it is something that, of course, I think TAFEs, universities, other areas of government employment may also be under active consideration, and I know that we're working through all of those issues and we'll make an announcement soon.
And also to private schools as well? Is that
Yes, it will cover government and the non-government sector, and I know that they are very keen that whatever the health order is that it covers the entire government and non-government sectors in both early education and both school education as well. But it's a good point. TAFEs, universities, registered training organisations, all of those are also under active consideration as well.
Queensland's one of the last states to introduce a mandate for teachers. Has there been pushback from the teachers union? Is that
No.
one against the
No, we're not the last state because there's been pushback from the teachers union. We were the first state to move in category 1B. I think everyone accepts that being vaccinated is the best way forward. How we actually achieve that is obviously we're wanting to encourage as many staff to go and get vaccinated across the government and non-government sector. But this is under active consideration, and when we move, we hope to come in line with other states, but that decision is yet to be made.
Is it supported by the unions though?
Yeah, I think the unions will understand fully that we need to ensure that we have safe workplace environments and plus safety for our children.
Are you wanting to make an announcement or decision in the next couple of weeks?
Oh, look, that's a good time. I'm not sure of the time frame. All I can say is that it is under active consideration. As you know, Queensland has a very good record of a very steady and cautious approach. We take a balanced approach, and when we land there, we will announce.
The department received a report into solutions with Alkiri State School near Mackay earlier this month. Will you release that report publicly?
Oh, look, I think I need to have a briefing on that on the update. I think everything's on the table and we'll have a look at
Have you
that.
seen the report?
I haven't seen it as yet. I'm awaiting a briefing.
And so you're wanting to see it?
Yes, obviously, yes.
Are all the staff in your ministerial office and electoral office double vaccinated?
I haven't actually asked that question yet, but once again, I encourage them all. I have a feeling they are, Lydia, but I wouldn't sign in blood. But I encourage everyone to get vaccinated, and when the time comes and we need to ensure that everyone is vaccinated, we will ensure that they are, if that is where we land.
Would you support a vaccine mandate at your parliamentary precinct?
Would I? Well, we always take the health advice and we will abide by the health order.
Just got to come with the sign, but that's all right.
Okay.
Simon, can you just talk us through the process here? What's the next phase in the bridge construction?
Well, you can see the mid-river pier in the river behind me. What you see is the back span, as you might say, coming up from the peak behind me. There'll be two more beams running down to that mid-river pier early next year, if Peter's promises are correct, Pete. And he's trying to do it earlier. And then they'll start bringing the main span, which goes up 70 metres in the air, and then bring the deck sections down and start connecting them. So what you'll see in simple terms next year is just the rest of this swan neck being built, right through to about middle of next year. And the bridge will be effectively complete, albeit we'll be doing all the finishes and handrails and everything else that you need to make it safe to use and enjoyable.
I suppose this be a good link between multiple precincts.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, our modelling shows about 10,000 people a day will use it. A lot of the decisions we're making on the city side in terms of eateries and coffee shops and things are really around that customer who'll come here, flow in the morning and the evening mostly from the railway station, and they can use the facilities as they move back into the city or across. But certainly I think the connection with South Bank's brilliant. We always say the integrated resort is where adults enjoy themselves but children can go, and I as a father took my children to South Bank. It's the opposite way around. Love it.
Thank you.
Right, should we have a look?